So the next character is Peng, and it is written like this with two moons together. Two yue. I'll go over that again in a minute larger. Originally, it is a depiction of feathers. So when we've seen the ran character that we've seen in Na and so on, these two were probably that anciently. It means a big bird, like a huge bird. But it's used for the word for friend because it has the same pronunciation. So to write a friend 2 months together, it makes you a good friend. We start with the Pie, Hung, Ja, Hung, Pie, Hung, Ja, Hung, Peng. Notice that you do the whole thing first and then you do the hung, and you do all of them because you're not closing it up. Well, I guess it would be the same anyway, wouldn't it? The next character, Yo, is again a depiction of two hands joined. So the top part is a hand and the bottom part is a hand. So anciently it would have been something like this. Two hands joined in friendship. Hung, Pie, Hung, Pie, Na, Yo, friend. The next character, Lai, to arrive, is a phonetic borrowing of another character. So the traditional character looks like this. In fact, yeah, that's right. Looks like this. And it's a depiction of wheat or some such thing with the tassels. And I'm doing a really terrible job. This really isn't what it looked like. But the tassels of the grain hanging down. In simplified characters, it's simplified down to that much. Lai. So let's try that. Hung, Pie, Dien, Hung, Shu Go, Pie, Na. Lai, to come. Okay, the next one, Jie, is a component or a character in the first character in the word to introduce. It means a border. So written like this, the top part is ba, the word for 8, but it indicates a division. So you've got things cut into a division. Actually, the division is below. The top part is ren, and then the division is underneath that. The division of people like a border. So jie usually means border or bordery or boundary. So introducing people across boundaries is kind of the rough idea, I suppose. But it could be just borrowed for its sound. So you write the top part like that. Pie, na, and then again, pie, shu. Jie. The next component, or next character, is composed of two components. And I'll write the traditional character first, because it's slightly more obvious. The left-hand side is silk, in which anciently was a depiction of threads of silk hanging together with the threads hanging out at the bottom. The right-hand side is phonetic. You've got dao, which is knife, over mouth, to call or speak to people, which is sort of related to the idea of introducing someone. So this thing on the top is dao, which means knife, and is sort of a depiction of this good old Chinese meat cleaver. Just phonetic here, and then mouth to speak. And very often, words that have to do with people or connections use this silk radical because there are threads of connection. Shao, let's write it out. Pie ja, and then a T at the bottom. Pie ja go, pie shu, hung ja, hung shao. The next character, xia, means beneath or to be released from class, for example, to be left off, to leave off. Anciently, it was written like this, which is sort of an upside down two. The long thing on the top, the shorter thing on the bottom, underneath. But because that was kind of confusing, they just added a shu stroke to it. Xia. Pretty basic and simple. Hung, shu, dian, xia. The next component is room. So here we have again a roof. We won't spend any time on that. The next component is to arrive at, to end at, or a depiction of an arrow. It is phonetic. So it sort of looks like an arrow stuck into the ground. Actually, it's sticking up instead of down, but it means to locate, to be at a place. So it is phonetic in this character, sure. So you have the roof, dien, dien, hung go, and then we do hung, pie ja, dien, hung, shu, hung, shi. The next character, yo, to have, or there is, or there are, or to possess something, is anciently a depiction of a hand grasping a chunk of meat. So here's the meat showing the striations of the muscle. To grab something, to have it. It's kind of a graphic depiction, but it just helps you remember it. Who knows where it actually comes from. So, grow. Meat is often simplified into the character for moon. And at some point, the character for flesh, muscle, body, this kind of depiction, and moon came to resemble each other quite a bit. So in traditional and simplified, it is hung, pie, hung ja, go, hung. So notice the difference with na. When we do the na character, you have the hung ja, go, hung, pie. So that is a different order than we're doing here. When it's yeah or ro, you do the pie first, then the hung ja go, and then the hung. Just so that we can recall that conversation. Don't do it in this case. The next character, ji, actually still means a small table, a tea table, or since in ancient China they would sit on mats on the floor like in Japan, this would just be a small resting table, an elbow table or something. It is phonetic for jiga. In traditional characters, you have two depictions of small things here, that silk cocoon, and then a spear and a person, ji. So it's nice to have it simplified to that extent, but it's not that difficult anyway. So jiga, pie, hung, ja, go, ji. The next character, Liang. When you're talking about amounts, you use Liang for two, because there are two things, like this. This is the traditional character or the simplified character, excuse me, the traditional character looks like this, which gives you kind of an indication of where of the original meaning. It was a depiction of two things hanging from a beam and being weighed. And this character is also the name of the Chinese ounce, the Liang, which you might run into sometimes. So it's been simplified to that, still has the basic idea or concept to it. Hung, shu, hung, ja, go, pie, dian, liang. The next character, ge. This is the generic measure word. It just looks like an arrow pointed up, but it's understood to be a node or a section of bamboo. I suppose the section of bamboo would look like this. I don't know. Okay, the traditional character has a ren zapong because it's used to count people. So that's ren, the person. And then the right-hand side is phonetic. And that is pronounced gu, just phonetic for ga. So the character ga, pie, shu, na, ga. The next character, do, has two components. This left-hand side, jut, means person, one who does something. So you have what we've seen in Lao. We've got earth on top, something being conveyed downward, and sunlight. I actually don't know the origin of that component, but you've got the sun, the earth, and something being conveyed. On the right-hand side, you have what's called the right-hand ear, yo ar pong, which is E, meaning city, deriving from this component. Oops, excuse me. So it is do because this character, when it refers to the capital city, is pronounced do or do. So it is just a phonetic borrowing of this character. Do all. The next character, chang, is composed of two components again. The top part is shang, and it actually means to head in a direction or to be on. It's sort of phonetic with on top of. That is a character in itself. This other component below it is jin, which means a piece of cloth or a pennant, or a handkerchief or a headband. So when you write it as a character, and it's just a phonetic borrowing again, you write the top part, then the ko, then shu, hung, ja, go, and shu down through it. Chang, often. The next character, gun, the component on the left is a foot, and this character zu is usually written like this, but you can see it's adapted as a radical, as a component of a character. The right-hand side is phonetic. It is a character in its own right, gun, which means imperturbable, immovable. It's not used very often, but it is a common phonetic. We'll see it quite a few times in just the first several lessons. So gun, to follow or go with, like your foot, using your foot to go with someone. So shu, hung, ja, hung, shu, hung, shu, hung. And this one you want to slant up a little bit to bring it into the rest of the character. Hung, ja, hung, shu, go, dian, na, gun. End of lesson 4.